Hi, and welcome to today's Tibco Mashery customer videocast. Today we are live at the Apollo Victoria Theatre, sharing a fantastic customer case study on API management. We have with us Francis Hellyer, who's the founder and chief executive officer of London Theatre Direct. On the broadcast today, we are going to hear how London Theatre Direct became a disruptor in the theatre industry by transforming to a digital business using Tibco Mashery's API technology. We will see how APIs can help a ticketing agency in monetizing their products, while Francis will also share some best practices and recommendations for other businesses on the digital journey, as well as describing what's next for London Theatre Direct. Additionally, please do feel free to send in your questions anytime during the broadcast, and Francis will share his expertise with you. Also, you can send questions in via our Twitter handle that you can see on the screen. So Francis, let's start with talking about the London Theatre Direct's digital transformation journey and then how you started on that journey.
I think the very beginning of our digital journey was way back when we started the business, when we were one of the first companies to sell tickets online. And at the time we were told that the internet wouldn't be a place for tickets to be sold. Since that point, we've continued to try and disrupt the marketplace. We've always tried to use new technologies. And of course, the most important thing in recent years is the introduction of APIs. So using the venue's APIs, the theatre's APIs, consolidating all of those into one very simple API for our partners to use.
Would you please describe London Theatre Direct's digital business transformation goals when you set upon this journey?
I think our goals primarily were to maximize sales, to reduce administration, to enable us to work with partners that perhaps otherwise we wouldn't have been able to.
And would you say that upsell and cross-sell opportunities were an important factor in your digital transformation journey?
Definitely. I think we've been very restricted for a number of years in how the ticket industry works, certainly in the West End of London, theatre land, because of the models that we used were sort of archaic. Limited number of available tickets provided to different partners, and the same tickets provided every day. So with opening up access to inventory, what it's meant is we're actually able to approach new partners, different distribution models, concentrate on marketing and technology rather than administration and sort of the back-end hard work.
So would you tell us about your previous technology infrastructure and how it was enabling you to meet business goals?
We've built our system from scratch, so it's something we didn't use any external products, obviously apart from things like Microsoft Word and so forth. We built everything ourselves, so we've constantly tried to improve what we have based on our own processes, our own manual process. And our digital transformation is primarily API driven. We try to put API at the very center of everything we do. And by connecting up with many different venues, consolidating access to all those venues into one API has meant that our focus is on just trying to provide access to one point for any partner that wants to work with us.
And we actually haven't talked about the history of London Theatre Direct. Could you explain to the audience how you started your business?
Absolutely. The company is about 18 years old now. It's almost the longest startup in history, I think. We continue to behave like a startup in terms of what we do. I started the company with my best friend, Emmanuel Ciolfi, in 1999, where at a time when people didn't use the internet as much in the UK, although in the States they did, not in the UK. And so we were variously told from different people in the industry that the internet would be a fad or a phase, that no one would ever use the internet or the World Wide Web, as it was sort of described as then, to book tickets. And of course, the internet has changed completely the way we would buy tickets for a show or a flight or reserve a hotel bedroom, that sort of thing. And now, of course, it's more by the move to mobile, people booking on apps and on mobile versions of sites as well. So it's been a long journey. But yeah, it's been an exciting one as well. It's been very challenging because of the nature of the industry we work in, and trying to sort of be at the forefront of introducing new technologies is always quite difficult, because you have to persuade people of the advantage of using and embracing that technology as well.
So what was that point in history when you decided that you needed something else, some different technology to make sure that you respond to the market demands properly?
Well, I think it was largely born out of frustration. as much as it was about understanding a little bit about tech and what could be done with it. Frustration because we had far more demand for ticket sales than we did of supply. So it was obviously a big issue between demand and supply. So when we were allocated just a small number of tickets, that's the only tickets we could sell. It also meant that we couldn't then invest in online advertising, in trying to strike partnership deals and marketing deals. We were very restricted in terms of our growth. So it was sort of one of those things where for many, many years prior to getting access to open inventory in the West End, we were sort of constantly talking about trying to increase the amount of tickets available to us because we had the ability to sell them. So for many years, we found it quite frustrating, I think, as a business that we just didn't have enough tickets to sell. And now we're in a sort of enviable position that we've got, I think at any one time, something like 4 million tickets on sale. So there's huge opportunity there for partners to work with us and get access to some of the most exciting entertainment products in the world.
That's really interesting. So it looks like you were the first ticket agency in the world to accept Bitcoin, and you've demonstrated yourself as a digital disruptor in the theater industry. How have you transformed the way your business is done? Have you managed to redefine your customer experience and streamline operations within the theater business?
I think by having a very tight team, by not trying to become too big, by focusing on technology as the solution. I think by trying to be nimble and trying to be agile and all those cool buzzwords that we use to describe startups really more than sort of more established businesses, and constantly trying to find new ways of working as well. And I think certainly the last few years, with opening up this inventory, there's just such exciting opportunities ahead of us. So to do something as we have, which is 18 years of doing the same thing, can be challenging. But I think because we constantly try and revolutionize the way we work and slowly drag forward an industry that perhaps is a little bit more traditional and old-fashioned in the way it works, I think it keeps us inspired and it keeps us sort of fighting the cause. And the end, I mean, everybody benefits from open access to inventory. So from the producers who invest all their money in the shows and take a huge risk, at the theater that gets more people through the door, more tickets sold, and more people to the bar. The ticket agent, obviously, ticket distributor like ourselves. And mainly, I suppose, the biggest beneficiary is actually the consumer. So they get to choose from a variety of seat prices. They can choose from our interactive seating plans. They can choose the area they want to sit. They can book tickets up until half an hour before the show starts as well. So it just means that people have more choice.
So let's look at how APIs themselves served as an on-ramp for your digital disruption. Tell me about your journey. Specifically, how was it implemented and in what phases?
It wasn't something that we could plan ahead because every theatre group, so you have the theatres and lots of them are owned by one company. So every theatre group, or lots of the theatre groups, use very different software systems, and they also use those box office systems differently. So they have different rule sets, they have different access permissions, that sort of thing. So we had to build quite a lot of tools on top of what was basic API access to some of this software. So we couldn't really decide, okay, now we're going to start selling Lion King through the API, or now we're going to start selling Wicked, or things like this. It was about what we were able to do at the time based on commercial decisions made by the venues and the limitations of the software or the software systems that they would be using. So we weren't able to really properly plan in a way that we'd like to, which venue would switch on first, which theatre we'd be able to sell for first. So it wasn't something we could actually sort of organize in advance. So we kind of responded and kept putting pressure to try and get access to this inventory. Of course, now we've got lots of them signed up and lots of people have seen this open inventory working really well and have realized that actually they get more control over the product than less control, which was the fear at the beginning. We've just sort of taken all of that access and again consolidated it down to one API. And I think that's the great sort of opportunity for anyone that wishes to work with us, is they just have to do one integration and then they have access to 20 years worth of banging on doors and really fighting for access to this product.
That's really exciting, Francis. Can you describe the role of Tibco Mashery as a solution integral to your digital business transformation?
Yeah. I mean, we're fortunate that we have, in the UK at least, a strong B2C brand. So we sell still the bulk of our tickets through our own website and through our own channels. And we've obviously realized that with access to as much inventory, we kind of needed to bring as many partners on board to get that distribution out into the wider world. We also realized that if we were to build that part of the business, we wanted to be the very best we could be in terms of technology. So although we had an API quite early on, as soon as we started making those connections, we wanted to make sure that the API was, stable, robust, secure, safe. It did all the things, it ticked all the boxes that we needed to have ticked in order for us to sort of be able to approach some big partners. So it's great to work with everybody that can come to us, whether it's a small startup or a large corporate. But we need to make sure that we can be fully flexible. And what Tibco Mashery actually enabled us to do was to easily onboard new partners. Our API is completely open, so anyone can go to the developer portal and sign up and get their API keys and so forth. So if someone has an idea for a new app or a project, they can just sign up, see what's available, and start thinking about what they can do with it. And in the same way, if we wanted to go to a really big organization, then they would have the confidence that our API wouldn't crash. We could properly track statistics, we could see the analytics, we can see exactly what's happening with the API. So it's about kind of really boosting our API, making sure that it was the market leader, and also being able to properly monitor the sort of transactions going through as well.
I'm glad you mentioned analytics. Would you describe how London Theatre Direct leveraged analytics to open up change or identify opportunities as a differentiator?
Yeah, I think it's analytics and data. So part of what we're doing as a business in a sort of next phase really is really looking at data and seeing what we can do with the number of years of data we've collected. And with the API, the analytics and monitoring what's happening, making sure that there's not checking the loads on the system, making sure that we've got enough bandwidth and enough distributed architecture, that sort of thing. Analytics forms an important part of that. So our developers are able to go in, see exactly the demand on the system, see if there are any areas we can improve. So it's really important. It's a really important part of what we're trying to do as well.
That's good to hear. So we've seen how easy it is to open up your APIs through third parties. Have you been able to respond faster to changing business conditions and customer needs ever since you have your new API platform?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's an ongoing process, if I'm honest. You need to constantly continue to sort of push the envelope and continue to improve the experience for not just customers but partners, any distribution opportunities. So we're able to use the tools easy onboarding is extraordinarily important. That someone doesn't just sort of send an email to somebody within the organization that gets lost and we miss potentially an opportunity to work with that company. So we're able to see exactly when someone signs up, applies for their keys. We have basic information about them, sort of name of company and contact details and so forth. So we're able to follow up as well with a call. It's not an aggressive sales call. It's just, we've seen you signed up. Can we help you? Can we answer any questions? And so that sort of thing is really useful. So we're not sort of having potential opportunities being lost on email.
So let's begin with the steps an architect takes to set up an application. An application is where we hang our keys, essentially services that London Theatre Direct is exposing, as well as details of the application. To create a new application, the user will give an idea of where the website is, basically documentation from this point. We want to then tell the API what we want to get access to. There are a number of packages which are a collection of different plans and APIs. In this case, we will request both default packages. What happens next is that we are given information about the keys. Some of these keys are set as active and they can be used immediately. Other keys require approval from the London Theatre Direct API management team, and as you can see, are identified as a status of waiting. With the two usable keys, we can now go on to IO docs, which is the way we expose information about the APIs. This allows the users to test them and look for information that is exposed, for which the architect has a key for. In this case, we are looking at theatres via venue code, and this happens to be the theatre hosting Wicked in London. And what is provided is technical information for the user, along with a set of data that offers information on what is going on at that theatre. So now that we know we have a venue, we may want to find out what is happening at that venue. Here we have another method, which is events at a venue. So once again, the architect will add the code for that particular venue, hit enter, and we'll be able to see details of what is going on. As we can see, it's the play Wicked. We now have information regarding tickets available.
What we're able to do is see exactly who is applying for an API key. We're then able to contact that user and try and provide them with the answer to any questions they may have. We can also see the type of person applying as well. So there's a good information exchange there. We can actually get information from the system as well. And I think just using Mashery as a tool through which we can communicate with those partners is also great as well.
Sounds great. Your use of APIs demonstrates your position as a game changer on the market in driving integration and collaboration. So from an integration perspective, how many partners or agencies or performances are you able to sell in at one time?
Okay, so we just checked, and at the moment we've got 4 million tickets on sale across all performances in the West End. I mean, that's a huge opportunity, not least for us with our own B2C channels, but also for partners that wish to work with us. There's so many tickets available because we're not just selling 2 Justin Bieber concerts at the O2, we're actually selling, performances for over a year or year and a half for some of the biggest musicals in the world, and they have 6 to 8 performances per week. There's lots of different seating areas, that sort of thing. So there's lots and lots of tickets available. And most of the shows in the West, or at least lots of the shows, sell extraordinarily well. But the great thing is now we're able to sell for performances in half an hour before the show, but also for in a year or in a year and a half's time. And what access to this inventory's done for us is it's allowed us to approach partners that perhaps we certainly wouldn't have been able to in the old days. And I think the importance of using Tibco Mashery, for example, and partnering with them on our API means that we're able to approach some of the bigger companies as well. So we can guarantee them the security and the stability and all the things they require in their SLAs or whatever they present us with. And I think that's the opportunity for us as well. It's not just being able to provide easy onboarding for a startup, but also the knowledge that not least we have a very specialist product to be able to sell, but combining that as well with the stability that a big partner would be able to look at and see and recognize as being a really good option for them as well.
Can you share your speed to value in terms of developing cycles or efficiencies in scaling and the delivery of an omni-channel customer experience?
Well, yeah, I think we try to be as agile as we can within the restrictions we have around us. There's always someone or some business trying to change the way things work or pull the rug under something, and it is definitely challenging because of the time and effort we invest in what we do. But that's not a problem for our partners. That's our problem to deal with the kind of eccentricities of the industry we work in. It is our problem, and for our partners, we just want to offer them a very simple solution that allows them access to this great entertainment product.
Francis, I remember you mentioning once about a well-known long-running show that was at risk of closing down due to low sales. However, by taking an API approach and using Mashery, led to a 500% plus increase in sales overnight. So that's a fantastic story. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah. There are a number of shows where the producers or the theatre have opened up access to inventory and they've experienced significant increase in sales. So some examples, without naming the show names, one recent example, we experienced 500% increase in sales just because immediately as soon as they opened up access. So that's a huge, huge effect. And of course for the producers who are the ones that sort of invest their time and money in creating these musicals or these plays, to me it's obvious that being able to sell as many tickets in the easiest manner possible is something they should, or they do, lots of them fully embrace. And I think the other thing as well is probably there are shows that may have been having a sort of rougher time, but they've actually opened up access and they've seen their sales grow significantly as a result. So I think maybe they've stayed longer in the West End than they would have done otherwise.
Excellent. So you have shared how London Theatre Direct has leveraged APIs to expose the digital economy from an upsell and cross-sell perspective. Can you describe how you are developing new revenue opportunities and producing value in the airlines and travel industry, for example?
Yeah, I think it's a great ancillary product. Theatre is exciting. You know, when people travel to London, they see the signs everywhere. The show names are up in lights. People talk about it. It's a great night out. It's very important we always remember that, you know, we talk about technology and we talk about all these things, but actually the product we have on sale is something you buy for a special occasion. So your mum's birthday, your wife's anniversary, your anniversary, not your wife's anniversary. That would be difficult. But yeah, so it's the opportunity, I think, is it can be a driver for sales for other things. So when you book a flight, unless you're in a very fortunate position that you can really go for the sort of first class and, you know, luxury experience, luxury travel, it's pretty standard. You know, traveling from I don't know, Berlin to London is not going to be that particularly exciting. But actually, so when you make the reservation, it's just a means to an end. You're just booking your flight. But what we think is that, or what we believe is that actually when you combine that with going to London to go and see a show, go and see Lion King, go and see Aladdin, go and see Wicked, it becomes something quite exciting then. So you know, what can be quite dry, like staying in a hotel. Again, if you're staying in a really nice hotel, it's different. But if you're just staying in a bog standard hotel, it's not that exciting. But when you combine that with an entertainment product, it can actually drive the sale for the hotel, or it can drive the sale for the airline as well. So, as at the moment, when you book a flight, you tend to get travel. You tend to get car hire or travel insurance, that sort of thing. But when you add, you know, Lion King tickets to that, it's a bit more exciting, I think.
Great information. Francis, we have someone on the line from the travel industry who's asking, what advice would you have to companies that are just considering becoming more digital? What are the main steps they should be looking at taking?
I think that people or companies need to avoid just doing something because they think someone else is doing, or they've heard buzzwords like dynamic pricing, or, you know, these sort of things. I think that what's very important is that they sit down, they look at, you know, where the problems are and where technology can improve that. So whether that's reducing administration, which is one of my big bugbears, you know, trying to reduce administration all the time, trying to improve communication internally within the organization, externally to partners, suppliers and consumers as well. Just streamlining really, I think is really, really important. I think definitely API as a means of different computer systems communicating with each other is so important. And I think, you know, it's not just API out enabling transactions, but also to look at internally where systems can talk to each other and try and make use of that technology.
So you've demonstrated how API connectivity has provided access to more tickets across price points in real time. And as a result, obviously, you've seen sales surge. We have another interesting question here that relates to the monetization of your services. Someone asks, can you describe how you can decrease conversions or cost of value, both from financial and customer experience perspective?
Yeah, sure. I think inevitably, if you have more choice, therefore more available, therefore more choice, you're more likely to be able to convert. If you're restricting your visitor, your website visitor, your customer to a particular area of the same seats every day at the same price every day, you're less likely to convert. And some of the theatres we work with now, we still have that issue, and it's such a shame because I think that, you know, there's a lot more we'd be able to do for those venues if we were able to actually sell the entire venue. So I think choice is the most important thing, because people can choose the really high-end premium and very expensive seats, or they can choose some perhaps slightly further back that are, you know, more reasonably priced, but they can still go and see the show as well. So I think from the choice is the most important part. In terms of conversions as well, and in terms of the customer journey, we look at that a lot. It's very important to try and make that journey as simple as possible. And that by the same token, for our partners, because we've got so much availability, we've got so much access now, thankfully, it means that they're probably going to invest more time and effort into doing the integrations as well. Whereas if there's not very much availability, then it's not really worth their while spending time with developers and working on it.
So just picking one more question from the audience, someone asks, what were your key learnings in your digital journey?
I suppose it's quite a difficult one, actually. The key learners, I suppose, would be that it doesn't just stop. You don't just ever reach a point where, okay, we've done it. We've reached the end point. It's constantly evolving. It's constantly changing. You continue down that path, and we're learning things, all the time. Sometimes they're slightly more frustrating than others, and sometimes they just come out of the blue, and you realize, goodness, there's something we can do here that's really quite exciting. And that's the best thing about it, is by investing so heavily and working and putting technology at the very core of everything we do, it means that these opportunities are coming to us, and that's when it becomes exciting, I think.
Absolutely. And you've just mentioned that this journey never stops. So this leads me to my last question to you, which is, what's next for London Theatre Direct?
Gosh, what's next? Well, I think we need to continue. There's still a lot of work to be done. There's still venues that haven't opened up access to us yet. I hope they will. We already sell tickets for Broadway, for example. We've not really done ourselves, because of our brand, much with that yet, but that's definitely also available to our partners. There's lots more regional venues, smaller venues. I think, again, packaging things together, creating weekend packages, that sort of thing is probably what we'll be doing. But I think constantly trying to find new ways of working, trying to make it really easy for customers to book tickets. So you can just, book a ticket on your phone, log in, your card's there, and you just walk into the auditorium. That's what we'd like to get to. There are other players and other people involved that mean that that's not the easiest thing for us to do, but hopefully we'll get to that point in the future.
Francis, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing the fantastic journey that London Theatre Direct has gone through. It's an incredible story, and we wish you all the best in the future as well with your future endeavors. And thank you for our audience for joining our live videocast today. Thanks for all the questions that we received. We'll aim to answer your questions offline, the ones that we haven't managed to answer today. And lastly, we would like to encourage you to start using Mashery. Now the free trial is available on mashery.com, so feel free to sign up for it.